everyone. Welcome back to Bible in a Year. My name is Natalie, and today we are on day 272. I'm so happy that you're here today. I hope your day's going great. We are going to be reading out of 1 Kings chapter 10, Ezekiel chapter 27, Hebrews chapter 3, and then we're going to close out the day with Psalm 138. So let's hop into 1 Kings chapter 10 and see what is happening today. When the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning Yahweh's name, she came to test him with hard questions. She came to Jerusalem with a very great caravan, with camels that bore spices, very much gold and precious stones. And when she had come to Solomon, she talked with him about all that was in her heart. Solomon answered all her questions. There wasn't anything hidden from the king which he didn't tell her. When the Queen of Sheba had seen all the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food of his table, the sitting of his servants, the attendance of his officials, their clothing, his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up to Yahweh's house, there was no more spirit in her. She said to the king, "It was a true report that I heard in my own land of your acts and of your wisdom. However, I didn't believe the words until I came and my eyes had seen it. Behold, not even half was told to me. Your wisdom and prosperity exceed the fame which I had heard. Happy are your men, happy are these your servants who stand continually before you, who hear your wisdom. Blessed is Yahweh your God, who delighted in you, to set you on the throne of Israel. Because Yahweh loved Israel forever, therefore he made you king, to do justice and righteousness." She gave the king 120 talents of gold and a very great quantity of spices and precious stones. Never again was there such an abundance of spices as these which the Queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. The fleet of Hiram that brought gold from Ophir also brought in from Ophir great quantities of almug trees and precious stones. The king made of the almug trees pillars for Yahweh's house and for the king's house, harps also and stringed instruments for the singers. No such almug trees came or were seen to this day. King Solomon gave to the Queen of Sheba all her desire, whatever she asked, in addition to that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. So she turned and went to her own land, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, in addition to that which the traders brought, and the traffic of the merchants, and of all the kings of the mixed people, and of the governors of the country. King Solomon made 200 bucklers of beaten gold. 600 shekels of gold went to one buckler. He made 300 shields of beaten gold. 3 minas of gold went to one shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with the finest gold. There were 6 steps to the throne, and the top of the throne was round behind. And there were armrests on either side by the place of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the armrests. 12 lions stood there on the one side, and on the other on the 6 steps. Nothing like it was made in any kingdom. All King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver, because it was considered of little value in the days of Solomon. For the king had a fleet of ships of Tarshish at sea with Herman's fleet. Hiram's fleet. I'm just going to start calling him Herman. Once every 3 years, the fleet of Tarshish came bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. All the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Year after year, every man brought his tribute, vessels of silver, vessels of gold, clothing, armor, spices, horses, and mules. Solomon gathered together chariots and horsemen. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen. He kept them in chariot cities and with the king at Jerusalem. The king made silver as common as stones in Jerusalem, and cedars as common as the sycamore trees that are in the lowland. The horses which Solomon had were brought out of Egypt. The king's merchants received them in droves. Each drove at a price. A chariot was imported from Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150 shekels. And so they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and to the kings of Syria. Oh, I did love reading all that. Oh, that was just, the imagery is just overwhelming and beautiful. Wow. Okay, hopping into Ezekiel chapter 27. I am very curious. Alrighty then. I was wondering how many chapters were in Ezekiel. Not going to lie, I am pretty disappointed, and I will just keep that information to myself. Ezekiel chapter 27. Okay, so Yahweh's word came again to me, saying, You son of man, take up a lamentation over Tyre, and tell Tyre, you who dwell at the entry of the sea, who are the merchant of the peoples to many lands, to many islands, the Lord Yahweh says, You, Tyre, have said, I am perfect in beauty. Your borders are in the heart of the seas. Your builders have perfected your beauty. They have made all your planks of cypress trees from Senir. They have taken a cedar from Lebanon to make a mast for you. They have made your oars of the oaks of Bashan. They have made your benches of ivory inlaid in cypress wood from the islands of Kittim. Your sail was of fine linen with embroidered work from Egypt, that it might be to you for a banner. Blue and purple from the islands of Elisha was your awning. The inhabitants of Sidon and Arvad were your rowers. Your wise men, Tyre, were in you. They were your pilots. The old men of Gabal and its wise men were your repairers of ships' seams in you. All the ships of the sea with their mariners were in you to deal in your merchandise. Persia, Lud, and Put were in your army, your men of war. They hung the shield and helmet in you. They showed your beauty. The men of Arvad with your army were on your walls all around, and and valiant men were in your towers. They hung their shields on your walls all around. They have perfected your beauty. Tarshish was your merchant by reason of multitude of all kinds of riches. They traded for your wares with silver, iron, tin, and lead. Javan, Tubal, and Meshech were your traders. They traded by persons of men and vessels of bronze for your merchandise. They of the house of Targamah traded for your wares with horses, war horses, and mules. The men of Dedan traded with you. Many islands were the market of your hand. They brought you horns of ivory and ebony in exchange. Syria was your merchant by reason of the multitude of your handiworks. They traded for your wares with emeralds, purple, embroidered work, fine linen, coral, and rubies. Judah and the land of Israel were your traders. They traded wheat of Minnith, confections, honey, oil, and balm for your merchandise. Damascus was your merchant for the multitude of your handiworks by reason of the multitude of all kinds of riches, with the wine of Helbon and white wool. Vadan and Javan traded with yarn for your wares. Wrought iron, cassia, and calamus were among your merchandise. Dedan was your merchant in precious saddle blankets for riding. Arabia and all the princes of Kedar were your favorite dealers in lambs, rams, and goats. In these they were your merchants. The traders of Sheba and Ramah were your traders. They traded for your wares with the best of all spices, all precious stones and gold. Haran, Kenna, Eden, the traders of Sheba, Ashur, and Chilmad were your traders. These were your traders in choice wares, in wrapping of blue and embroidered work, and in cedar chests of rich clothing bound with cords among your merchandise. The ships of Tarshish were your caravans for your merchandise. You were replenished and made very glorious in the heart of the seas. Your rowers have brought you into great waters. The east wind has broken you in the heart of the seas. Your riches, your wares, your merchandise, your mariners, your pilots, your repairers of ship seams, the dealers in your merchandise, and all your men of war who are in you, with all your company which is among you, will fall into the heart of the seas in the day of your ruin. At the sound of the cry of your pilots, the pasture lands will shake. All who handle the oars, the mariners, and all the pilots of the sea will come down from their ships, and they will stand on the land, and will cause their voice to be heard over you, and will cry bitterly. They will cast up dust on their heads, and they will wallow in its ashes. They will make themselves bald for you, and clothe themselves with sackcloth. They will weep for you in bitterness of soul, with bitter mourning. In their wailing, they will take up a lamentation for you, and lament over you, saying, Who is there like Tyre, like her who is brought to silence in the middle of the sea? When your wares came from the seas, you filled many peoples. You enriched the kings of the earth with the multitude of your riches and of your merchandise. In the time that you were broken by the seas, in the depths of the waters, your merchandise and all your company fell within you. All the inhabitants of the islands are astonished at you, and their kings are horribly afraid. They are troubled in their face. The merchants among the people hiss at you. You have come to a terrible end, and you will be no more. Oh, my goodness sake. Wow. All right. Moving into Hebrews chapter 3. Just the contrast, just the beauty of, the spices and the linens and the horses and all the trading. And just, kind of sitting in that and reading about it and then just torn off like a Band-Aid. It's all gone. It's all gone. Okay, Hebrews chapter 3. Therefore, holy brothers, partakers of heavenly calling, Consider the apostle and high priest of our confession, Jesus, who was faithful to him who appointed him, as also Moses was in all his house. For he has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses, because he who built the house has more honor than the house. For every house is built by someone, but he who built all things is God. Moses indeed was faithful in all his house as a servant, for a testimony of those things which were afterward to be spoken. But Christ is faithful as a son over his house. We are his house, if we hold fast our confidence and the glorying of our hope firm to the end. Therefore, even as the Holy Spirit says, today, if you will hear his voice, don't burden your hearts as in the rebellion, in the day of the trial in the wilderness, where your fathers tested me and tried me and saw my deeds for 40 years. Therefore I was displeased with that generation and said, they always err in their heart. But they didn't know my ways. As I swore in my wrath, they will not enter into my rest. Beware, brothers, lest perhaps there might be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in falling away from the living God, but exhort one another day by day, so long as it is called today, lest any of you be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. For we have become partakers of Christ, if we hold the beginning of our confidence firm to the end, while it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, don't harden your hearts as in the rebellion. For who, when they heard, rebelled? Wasn't it all those who came out of Egypt led by Moses? With whom was he displeased 40 years? Wasn't it with those who sinned, whose bodies fell in the wilderness? To whom did he swear that they wouldn't enter into his rest, but to those who were disobedient? We see that they weren't able to enter in because of unbelief. Okay, moving into Psalm 138, closing out the day. This is a psalm by David. I will give you thanks with my whole heart. Before the gods, I will sing praises to you. I will bow down toward your holy temple and give thanks to your name for loving kindness and for your truth. For you have exalted your name and your word above all. In the day that I called, you answered me. You encouraged me with strength in my soul. All the kings of the earth will give you thanks, Yahweh, for they have heard the words of your mouth. Yes, they will sing of the ways of Yahweh, for Yahweh's glory is great. For though Yahweh is high, yet he looks after the lowly, but he knows the proud from afar. Though I walk in the middle of trouble, you will revive me. You will stretch out your hand against the wrath of my enemies. Your right hand will save me. Yahweh will fulfill that which concerns me. Your loving kindness, Yahweh, endures forever. Don't forsake the works of your own hands. Your right hand will save me. So as we're walking through this journey called life, and for those of us who have decided to walk this journey in a relationship with God, we are certainly not perfect and we fall into the wrong things. I personally fall into wrong things daily. whether it is with my behavior, whether it is with my thoughts, whether it's in my unbelief at times. The difference is that we continue to get up and keep trying. We keep trying to have that relationship with God. And we are moving in this world. We are moving in this life while in relationship with God. Your right hand will save me. And the only way that we can hold that belief is if we're in relationship. If there's no relationship, there's no thought process that a right hand of anybody is going to save me. I am alone. And what a tough life that would be. On the bad days, I know His right hand is going to save me. You will stretch out your hand against the wrath of my enemies. Your loving kindness, Yahweh, endures forever. The hope in that relationship. And that's what we need to tell other people. I am just begging society to just back off the judgment. I am wishing that society would put all that judgment energy into an energy of encouragement and education and love. Fred would agree with me, I think, on that one. So, thank you for stopping by today. I am truly so glad that you're here, and I hope you have the most wonderful day. Come back for tomorrow, which will be day 273, and I will see you then. Bye, everybody.